Hi, friends. So, I am ready to share something near and dear to my heart and share not only a little piece, but a journey that I've been on. And it's been escalated recently, and since a lot of people get talking about weight loss, it's in our environment, it's something that's constantly there, I think it's time to talk about it. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey and all that it leads up to so you can understand where I've come from and what my version of emotional weight loss is. So, as a young child growing up, no big deal, right? And then as you enter teenage years, weight became a thing that I thought about actually after I entered 7th grade. I had a friend who was talking about how much she weighed and what size she was, and I was kind of like, is this a thing? Am I supposed to pay attention to this? And that's how it got started. I was like, oh, this friend is telling me this. Maybe this is a thing. So that's when I started paying attention to weight and sizes and all of that. Before that, it was just, oh, I'm growing, time for the next size. Let's go buy the next size, and on we went. So in my world, I went from a girl's 14 right into Mrs., and there were some sizes in the middle that I missed. I never landed on them. And then I continued on with life, and my family moved shortly after that conversation with that friend. And in the move process, I gained weight. So I have a lot of heart soft spots for kids who have to move. My kids did many times over the years, as I did with my husband's job. And as we moved, I would notice that there was a trend of weight gain every time. And so for me, I realized as I was going through this emotional weight loss process that not feeling stable was key to my weight gain. However, on the one move we took where I knew where I was going to land, like we did a house shopping trip, and so I knew exactly where we were going to pack up here and land here, and there wasn't an interim housing arrangement. I did not gain weight that trip. So for me, I was like, oh, emotional weight loss is stability. And it's in creating it for myself. So that was one thing that I found as I moved on this journey. Now, also on this journey of paying attention to my weight, I went on and I started getting massive anxiety in my late high school years. And depression was diagnosed soon thereafter. And in this whole process, it has been part of my past experience, and sometimes it's part of my current experience, was rheumatoid arthritis at 28 and Hashimoto's at 21, and celiac although that was self-diagnosed because I didn't at that point have the patience for doctors. And it ultimately was definitely helpful. Celiac around 5 years ago, and also self-diagnosed because a family member said, don't even bother going through the hoops to do this. It's a long, arduous process and expensive, was hypoglycemia. So if you look at all these, they're all interrelated, and a lot of them are autoimmune. So when one autoimmune shows up, multiple can show up. So like I said, they're part of my past. Every so often they're part of my present. And my hope is that as it slowly disappears in my present, it eliminates from my future. So let me continue my story. So I exercise. I went to the gym in my early 20s. I did a lot of weights. I really enjoyed that, and a little bit of cardio. I just basically did what my initial consultation with the personal trainer said to do, and I did it. And then I started changing my diet in my young adult years, and I started applying to more non-dairy milks out of total preference. I don't even remember why I got started on this. Then I go on to get married and start to have babies, and at that point, that's where a lot of moms start realizing their bodies don't bounce back. and mine did not. There was one day, and it's a classic memory that I laugh at now, but I had been attending church, and this was a place far away from where I was from, and a woman at church said to my husband, "Oh, your wife's pregnant? I thought she was just getting fat." Thank you for that. Yes, back-to-back babies will make you look that way. So that was happening, and after my age 28 rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis, I said something's got to change, and so I started looking at my diet, and I radically changed my diet and lost weight. My husband, however, Steve, did not lose weight on that diet, and that was an interesting thing for both of us as we continued this path and started to wake up to this idea of emotional weight loss. So then I radically changed my diet, and I'm still working at going to the gym. All this time, I'm still doing the initial gym that I had started back when I was a young adult, and I started doing some water aerobics for my 4th pregnancy. And continued with that. Then we moved again, and I started to really enjoy running outside. And I'd started that during my 4th pregnancy, really upped it during 5 and 6. Really enjoyed running. And then also about pregnancy number 5 is when I said, you know what? Hashimoto's disease can highly be linked to celiac, so I'm going to step away from gluten and see how that goes. And it went really well. I lost weight again. And then time went on, and here I was after my 7th baby was born, working out with a Fit for Mom Stroller Strides group, because at this point I had learned that I really enjoyed running outside and being outside. So I thought, oh, I'll join this group. It's outdoors. It'll be great. And I had more injuries than I had ever had exercising before. And that was confusing to me. And then I didn't lose weight. And I remember I kept thinking, I just can't wait till this baby's done nursing, then I'll lose weight. Because nursing was linked to, I couldn't budge the number when I was nursing. So all that happened. And then I had shared on social media before that 2019 was a rough year. It was a year of cleansing, getting rid of stuff. And I bottomed out at least twice in 2019. And it's so funny because several months into 2019, I started eating salads and rice cakes for 2 of my meals. Maybe a shake to help out with that 3rd meal, and then sometimes the salad and rice cakes were in the same meal, and then I did a normal thing for my 3rd meal. But it was all normal to what I had been experiencing. And it was at that point I gained 5 pounds in 1 month. And I was like, what is going on? What's wrong with me? What's going on? So I looked back, and this is why I tell you my whole story. I looked back to all the years, and I realized that exercise never had anything to do with weight loss for me. It had everything to do with what I was putting in my mouth. It had everything to do with the decisions I was doing, and it had everything to do with the emotions I was feeling. So the emotions I was feeling in the month that I was eating all my salads and rice cakes, which, by the way, rice cakes and I, we're on the outs right now because they didn't do me any favors. So, bye-bye. So that's where I went and started paying attention to what I had been hearing for the last 2 years from my dear friend Angela Villa, and said, okay, there's got to be something with this, with what she's doing, and with what I can be doing. Because as you follow this trend with having 7 babies, and where you started as a young adult and where you're ending after all these babies and the changes in your body, you have to pay attention as a woman to the hormones that are going on, the emotions that are going on, and the yin factor of the female for all of that. And so the yin factor for me was what was going in my mouth. So I started to radically change what went in my mouth. And it worked. I dropped the poundage I had gained that month and the previous months. And it was really incredible to me. And I was like, how interesting that it wasn't my exercise to help me lose weight. And it wasn't even the exercise to help me. So exercise wasn't the key. It was food and it was emotions. And there was one night where I came home from being out of the house and I was like, boy, am I hungry. But my stomach was so full of the dinner I had had 2 hours before, because I have also learned my metabolism runs kind of slow, kind of like my energy. It just quietly processes and it takes a while. And after all these months, I've learned that this much meat in my stomach's going to sit there for 24 hours, 48 hours, and I'm just going to feel it the whole time. And I don't like feeling that. It's not part of who I am. And so I've really felt into food. And by doing that, it's really improved how I've been. When my stomach was full and I was like, okay, what am I feeling? And I'm big into muscle testing myself. And so I actually muscle tested myself. Do I need food? Okay, so it's all emotion. I'm hungry. It's emotion based. So I kind of just stood in my front room where all my oils are and where all my emotion books are. And I was like, what am I feeling? And I was like, I'm feeling like I don't have a purpose. Okay. Anything else? So I went to my books and I found that if I were to put Roman chamomile on my body, my oil, that it would help in feeling more purposeful. So I was like, okay. So I put it right here and distracted myself for a minute. And I kid you not, within 4 minutes, I was headed to bed and I was no longer hungry. Fascinating. There have been other times since then where I ate what I was planning on eating for the day, and I would get to the evening and I'd be like, I'm hungry. And then I would muscle test myself. Am I hungry? Yes. Really? What am I hungry for? And so I'd go in my kitchen, and of course what I want to grab is the yum, cozy, snacky foods. And I can tell you, flour does not do me any favors either. So flour's out in all varieties. Okay, not almond flour, but everything else. It just packs the pounds on the hips. And I was like, okay, so what can I do? And I realized that I was in need for more vegetables. So I kid you not, vegetables are my number one food for weight loss. And it has been so fascinating to me. I'd posted on social media before that sauteed veggies and some good coconut oil or MCT oil, XCT oil with some seasonings is like my jam. And it makes me feel so good and my stomach sucks in and everything's fantastic. So that's what I do. I have a plate full of veggies and I eat and I eat and I eat. And I kid you not, my mouth gets tired of it. Like, really? Do we have to keep doing this? I'm like, yes, mouth. We're going to keep doing this because the rest of the body is happy, even if you're not. So that is how that is gone. And I want to step back and talk about how exercise has played out for me, because this has also been a fascinating discovery. So like I said, I did weights at the gym and ellipticals and treadmills at the gym for a decade. And then all these autoimmune diseases really skyrocketed. I'm like, well, that's not doing me favors. What else is there? So then I did water aerobics and I loved that. And then the time that I actually came down, remember I told you at the beginning of the story that as a youth, I went from girls size 14, 16 and jumped. And there were some sizes I missed. And so I didn't think I could ever be those sizes, because obviously my body took shape, things were changing in my physicality, and I just skipped them. So they must not exist for me. Well, as I was transforming all my food and eliminating, like self-diagnosing celiacs and hypoglycemia, I found that I was really in love, besides running outside, I was really in love with Pilates and yoga. And I'd really enjoy those classes. And then I moved to my final destination, which is Utah. And I think I'll have roots here for forever. It's where I'm from. And I jumped into a Stroller Strides group, and I wasn't losing weight, and I wasn't losing weight. I was getting so frustrated. So that's when I just took a step back. I was like, I'm going to have to go like hardly any times a month. And I'm going to just have to figure this out, because I've got to figure out what exercise is going to work with my nature, with the movement of my body. And so I bought myself a gift for Christmas. I've been in love with this exercise program that was introduced to me when I was 13, shortly after I had moved and had gained all that weight in 7th, 8th grade. And it was this woman named Evelyn Allen, and she produced some exercise videos in the Wasatch Front, like Idaho and on down. And I had loved exercising to her. I lost weight, so my kids would always make fun of these exercises, because she's an older lady, like in her 60s, and she's got this jogger suit on, and it was filmed in the 70s, and always made fun of these exercises. And I turned to my 14-year-old one day and I said, when I was your age, I lost a lot of weight doing these exercises. So this is endearing to me because I felt so much better. And I remember even one particular boy who saw me at the end of one school year and saw me at the beginning of the next school year and was like, "What happened to you? You look great." You're going to remember little things like that. I do over time. So I've always loved these exercise CDs, and I had to transfer them from a VHS to a DVD, and then slowly my DVDs were disappearing. And I was like, oh. So I bought her book that I found on Amazon, and there was like one copy sitting there for months, and I was finally like, that's my copy, and I've got to get it. So I got it. But I have learned, and this is cool, that my dear sweet husband Steve can go to the gym for an hour and run there, because it's less than a mile. So he'll run there, do this heavy, brutal workout, and he loses weight because he's like, out. He's this young movement, out, do it, go. And when I tried that workout once, I felt nauseous and I was sore for days. And so that is a way to just pull me back. Well, in the middle of discovering all these workouts, I started getting headaches. And when I got a personal trainer, I was like, I really want to do something. So I'm going to get a personal trainer and see if she can help me more than any other thing I've done. And so it showed me these exercises. We were working together, and there was one day where it was the first time we got together, and then several days later, I was doing some exercises like this for my triceps. And I was like, oh, she's like, what's wrong? Like, it's cotton ear. I hate cotton ear, and I always get it when I'm exercising really hard. And it took a few days and some research to say, do you have really low blood pressure? And I was like, oh yeah, it's been low my whole life. Doctors love it, but I tell you, it's really easy to pass out. She's like, we can't do exercises above your heart. That's going to be really bad. And the headaches I were getting were also linked to the blood sugar problem. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So I became very, very familiar with my body. I'm very familiar with how it was interacting. And so with all this research, I'm just like dying to share it with somebody. So I'm sharing with you. And then if you want to get together one-on-one, we'll go into it deeper on you and your movement and everything. So I did all this. And so I was like, so then I abandoned her exercises. I abandoned her routine. I abandoned it all. And I was like, now what do I do? Here I am doing her exercises and working myself out to fatigue, because that's a thing that I keep hearing around is work to fatigue level. And I was like, no, because then that shuts down my blood pressure. It shuts down my blood sugar, and it shuts down my body, and I'm sore for days. That's not working either. What's energizing to me? What exercises are going to make me feel alive? So fast forward, here's what worked for me. 10 minutes a day at 6 p.m. That's all I do. And it's usually bar exercises. And it's some plank. And it's some good squats. And I kid you not, waistline exercises from my good old dear friend Evelyn, who's so passed away since now, but she affected my life. And that's it. 10 minutes a day at 6 p.m. because 6 p.m. is when my body wakes up and says, let's push the last of the energy out of you so we can sleep tonight. And so I do it and I'm done. And sometimes I'll have my husband write down exercises he does at his class and keep track of them. And then at 6 p.m., I'm suddenly 6, 7, sometimes it's even as late as 8. I'm like, hey, I've got my energy boost. Like, show me what you did. And I will do one set of 10 and 4 exercises, and I'm done. Because I didn't work out to fatigue. Because I stopped early. I am sore that night and the next day, but I'm ready to go by that same time of day the next day. Because I can feel that soreness going, and it's perfect. And it's just this much time. And I was like, how fascinating. That's all I need. Because that was the other problem, is all these exercise classes, all the times are get up, go get it done, and you don't have to worry about it all day long. And it didn't work for me. You know what would happen? I would get up, I would go do it, and then I would have to take a nap. And then I would sleep poorly, because then I would just recharge myself, and then I wouldn't actually do enough exercise or movement through the rest of the day that would actually fatigue me to go to sleep. So I've learned a lot about myself. When I've looked at the stars, I've looked at the planets, I've looked inside myself, I've looked outside myself, I've talked to experts, done the things. And that's what worked for me. So with the way I move in the world and the way I'm functioning, I found my emotional weight loss was in listening deeply to my body, listening deeply to my soul, and then listening even deeper to my feelings. Because my feelings would create the thoughts. But if I could tap into my feelings, I could eliminate all the cycle that goes on after that. So that is my path in a nutshell. And I'm excited to read all the feedback you're sending me and hear what your experience is and all the things. And I hope that this is inspiring to help you move on your journey, either now or later. Like I tell you, I've been on this journey for years. It was never started every January. It was always in process. Always that question in my head, what's working for me? And so for me to do just 10 minutes of exercise it's a huge relief off my body, that I don't have this big to-do hanging over my head. But I can also tell you that I don't crave vegetables. My body loves them for healthy weight. I don't enjoy chewing them, and I don't crave them. But I do have my tara greens, powdered greens, and I have my sauteed veggies, and between the two, crazy cool things are happening. I also have found that, watching the scale is not super helpful, because as you wear, that's some pair of pants right here. Ooh, terrible lighting. As you wear clothing, it will slowly shrink over time, and nobody needs to compare their progress to their clothes, because if the clothes are shrinking and you're shrinking, nothing's changing. And so that for me was a few years ago, when I was suddenly landing on that size that I didn't think was ever possible for me. And I was like, wait, my hips aren't naturally the bigger size. They can actually fit smaller. What? And I didn't know this till one day I was like, I need to go shopping. I need some clothes. Like, oh, my pants are they're getting old. It's time to refresh. I went to this great total dump store called Spokane Discount, and I found some pants and I started trying them on, and I was like, whoa, what is this size? This fits. Like, because you're trying on clothes and you go down, what? So I still have those clothes, basically saving them for when my daughter lands in that size, because I'm not there yet. Because I also look at my body and I'm like, I appreciate where you're at. 7 kids. And so many people are like, you don't look like you have 7 kids. In fact, no one even tells me I look like my age. So you started having kids at 11. No, I didn't. 23. But I don't look my age. And so there's sometimes like, I love my body today. Who cares how many scars are underneath these clothes from all those babies? I love my body and I love the family I have. If that was the price, I'm ready to pay it. I already did pay it, and I'm just going to love it now. So I've become much more loving to my body. I'm going to close on one other thought. Part of this process of unraveling I did several protocols of emotional healing, and so many that I'm just like, I would love to teach. But one particular was called Whole You by Desiree Mangadog. And what I did with this protocol was I put it on every morning, every night, but I kept this diluted roller bottle of helichrysum with me and rolled it on my heart chakra every day, several times a day. And it was amazing to watch the tears cry. There was one day where I cried so many tears in so many waves that when, I kid you not, I was in the middle of Disneyland. I just sit on a bench and I'm just like, happiest place on earth, let's detox, right? Detox my emotions. And so my husband's like, I'm crying on my shoulder. And I'm like, yes, please. I look at him and I'm like, I feel like I'm hemorrhaging tears. And helichrysum is the oil of the blood. It helps with helping the blood stay clean, helping it either coagulate or flow or whatever is necessary for the blood. And it was fascinating to me that here I was putting it on my heart chakra and it was just gushing tears, held back tears for years. And the feeling and the thought was, I'm hemorrhaging tears right now. And the next thought was, then let it come. Because I don't want to hold it back anymore. I'm done. I'm ready to be clear, clean, have a clean slate. And if that's what the emotion needs, it needs to just go. Let's go. So it doesn't make you cry anymore. But sharing my emotions does. So I'm crying, and that's okay. Anyway, so enjoy your weight loss journey. Enjoy your emotional journey. It's part of you. It's part of what this year is here for you to have. And it's time to just let it go. And there's always a shoulder to listen to and cry on. And it might be your beloved, and it might be a friend. It might be me. So enjoy your day. Enjoy your life. Let's grow.